Harry, I feel like, is doing more damage to his relationship with the British royal family, jeopardizing his relationship with the British royal family. Yeah, I mean, but taking the Mickey out of Trump and potentially doing damage to all the hard work the royal family recently did during their state visit and schmoozing him. For Harry to go and then make fun of Trump, who has said in the past, you know what, I'm going to let go of the immigration drama surrounding Harry because I have respect for his father and his family. I think that Harry doesn't realize that he's causing trouble for ultimately for his family, or he does, and he just simply doesn't care. Another speech here in Los Angeles, you're really getting a sense of his desperation for a paycheck, right? And joking about Downton Abbey versus being a member of the royal family.
Breaking news from the palace walls. And what I'm about to tell you isn't just another chapter in the Sussex saga. This is about the complete unraveling of whatever relationship Harry and Meghan thought they could maintain with the royal family, with Britain, and with any hope of redemption. The Duke of Sussex's security arrangements while in the UK are being reviewed. That's the official story. Harry wrote to Home's Secretary Shabana Mahmood shortly after her appointment, formally requesting a risk assessment that might pave the way for him to visit his father, King Charles. But here's what's really happening behind that bureaucratic language. Harry is desperate, isolated, trapped in a Montecito mansion with a wife who's chasing fame and fortune while his relationship with his family crumbles. And his attempts to negotiate a return to the UK are being systematically undermined by his own behavior and Meghan's relentless pursuit of celebrity relevance. Can you imagine the desperation? Writing formal letters to government officials, begging for security arrangements, trying to find any pathway back to the family and country he abandoned, all while simultaneously appearing on American talk shows doing ridiculous skits and mocking the very people he needs to reconcile with. Because that's exactly what Harry did. While negotiating for the possibility of visiting his father, he went on Stephen Colbert's late-night show and performed a cringe-worthy Christmas skit complete with fake snow and reading from a teleprompter like an amateur actor desperate for any attention. And before that, he appeared on the same show doing Trump impressions and mocking the former president, the same president his father, King Charles, had just spent considerable political capital cultivating a relationship with during a state visit. Think about the stupidity of that timing. The royal family works for months to smooth relations with Trump, securing millions in tech investment and a complete policy reversal on Ukraine. And Harry, still technically a duke, still carrying royal titles, goes on national television and ridicules Trump for laughs. That's not someone who wants reconciliation. That's someone so controlled by his wife's need for celebrity relevance that he can't see how every appearance, every joke, every desperate grab for a paycheck destroys whatever bridges might still exist. Tonight, we're going to examine the real state of Harry and Meghan's relationship with the palace and with each other. The reports that their marriage is on bad terms. The evidence that Harry is desperately unhappy and homesick. The way Meghan is using their children as props to chase headlines. And why Harry's pathetic attempts at humor on American television are burning every last bridge he has left. This is about a prince who gave up everything for a woman who's now using him as a stepping stone to chase fame she'll never actually achieve. A man so desperate for paychecks that he'll debase himself on talk shows. A father who doesn't want his kids on social media but can't stop his wife from using them for publicity. And it's about a woman so desperate to stay relevant that she's promoting a familyless Christmas special on Netflix while her own father lies in a hospital bed with an amputated leg, begging to see her one last time. So before we dive into Harry's humiliating television appearances, before we examine the marriage that insiders say is falling apart, before we look at Meghan's pathetic attempt to build a lifestyle brand by serving raw vegetables with store-bought dip, I need you to understand where we are. Harry and Meghan are on bad terms with everyone. The palace, the British public, the American public that voted for Trump, the media they need to stay relevant, even reportedly with each other. Can you imagine living this reality? You've burned every bridge, alienated everyone who could help you, and you're trapped in a mansion with someone whose desperation for fame is matched only by her complete inability to achieve it authentically. Let's begin where the desperation is most obvious, with Harry's embarrassing television appearances and why they prove he's lost all sense of dignity or strategy. Let me paint you a picture of where Prince Harry is right now, standing on a stage with fake snow falling, reading from a teleprompter on Stephen Colbert's talk show, performing in a Christmas skit so cringeworthy that even his supporters felt embarrassed watching it. This is the Duke of Sussex, a man who was born into one of the most prestigious families on earth, who served his country in the military, who once commanded respect and affection from millions of people. And now he's doing silly voices on late-night television for a paycheck. Can you imagine the desperation that drives someone to this? Not just appearing on talk shows. Plenty of royals have done media appearances. But performing like a desperate actor at an audition, reading lines about being a handsome prince, while Colbert mocks him about asbestos and horse seizures. Kinsey Schofield, who covers the Sussexes extensively for American media, captured it perfectly. You're really getting a sense of his desperation for a paycheck, right? That's what all of this is about. Harry and Meghan have burned through the Netflix money, the Spotify money, the book advance money. And now they're in what Kinsey calls a gig economy, chasing any appearance, any speech, any opportunity to generate income, regardless of how undignified or self-defeating it is. Let's look at Harry's recent appearances in context. Harry appeared on Colbert and did impressions mocking Donald Trump. Funny voices, sarcastic commentary, playing to a liberal audience that loves Trump criticism. This would be fine if Harry were just a private citizen with no remaining connection to the royal family. But he's not. He's still the Duke of Sussex. He still uses his royal titles. He's still technically part of the institution he spent years attacking. And that institution, the British royal family, had just completed a state visit with Trump. King Charles had personally worked to repair relations, secure economic benefits, and influence Trump's position on Ukraine. Can you imagine being King Charles? You spend months carefully cultivating a relationship with a politically powerful figure who could benefit your country. You achieve actual policy victories. And then your son, who claims he wants reconciliation with you, goes on American television and mocks that same person for laughs. Harry isn't just being disrespectful to Trump. He's actively undermining his father's diplomatic work. He's damaging Britain's relationship with America's incoming administration. He's proving that he either doesn't understand the consequences of his actions or simply doesn't care. Kinsey Schofield said it bluntly. I think that Harry doesn't realize that he's causing trouble for his family, or he does, and he just simply doesn't care. And that's actually probably the most likely scenario. Then came the Stephen Colbert Christmas appearance we just discussed. Fake snow. Bad acting. Reading from a teleprompter. Making self-deprecating jokes about being a prince while performing in a skit that looked like it was written for a high school talent show. This is someone who's completely lost their sense of dignity. Because even if you need money, even if you're desperate for paychecks, there are ways to maintain some level of self-respect. But Harry has none left. He'll do whatever Meghan tells him to do, whatever his handlers suggest, whatever generates a headline or a check. Harry gave another speech in Los Angeles, reportedly joking about dancing with the stars versus being a member of the royal family. Can you see the pattern? Every appearance involves Harry mocking or trivializing his royal heritage, while simultaneously trading on it for money. He wants to call the institution toxic while cashing in on his association with it. As Kinsey said, if you are going to call this institution so toxic, then make your own lane and stop cashing in off of your association with them. But that's the trap Harry and Meghan are in. The only reason anyone cares about them is their royal connection. Without it, Harry is just another rich guy with family trauma and Meghan is just another failed actress with delusions of grandeur. So they're stuck, dependent on the institution they claim to have escaped from, unable to build anything authentic or successful on their own, reduced to accepting whatever humiliating gigs their desperation for money drives them to. Let me ask you, if you were Harry's friend, if you genuinely cared about his well-being, would you let him debase himself like this? Or would you tell him the truth, that these appearances make him look pathetic, destroy any remaining dignity, and burn whatever bridges might still exist with his family? Comment your thoughts. Because we're about to examine why Harry can't refuse these degrading appearances, because Meghan is the one making decisions, and her desperation for relevance overrides any concern for Harry's dignity or long-term interests. When we come back, we're looking at the reports that Harry and Meghan's marriage is on bad terms, that he's desperately unhappy, that she's so focused on chasing fame that she's using their children as props, and why insiders believe their relationship is heading toward collapse. Stay with us. This is where we see the personal cost of Meghan's relentless pursuit of celebrity. Now we need to talk about what's happening inside the Montecito mansion. Because according to multiple sources, Harry and Meghan aren't just on bad terms with the palace, they're increasingly on bad terms with each other. Can you imagine living with someone whose desperation for fame is so all-consuming that they'll sacrifice your dignity, your children's privacy, and your family relationships just to chase headlines? That's reportedly Harry's reality right now. According to Kinsey Schofield, the tabloids have reported that there are issues at home, that Harry is homesick and Meghan is so determined chasing fame and fortune that Harry doesn't want the kids on social media, and every time Meghan's got a new launch, she inches the kids closer to an official reveal because she's pursuing those headlines and she needs that positive press, and it's one of the only ways she manages to get positive press. Let's break down what this means. Harry doesn't want Archie and Lilibet on social media. He's spoken publicly about protecting his children's privacy, about not wanting them exposed to the toxicity of online platforms, about keeping them out of the public eye. But Meghan needs content. She needs headlines. She needs something that will generate positive press because literally everything else she does gets criticized. So she inches closer and closer to revealing the children. A hand here, a glimpse there, strategic leaks about what they're doing, all building toward the full reveal she knows will generate the kind of attention her failing projects need. Can you see the fundamental conflict this creates? Harry wants to protect his children. Meghan wants to use them for publicity. These are incompatible goals. And Meghan's need for fame is winning. Multiple sources report that Harry is deeply homesick. He misses England.
He misses his friends.
He misses aspects of royal life that he didn't fully appreciate until they were gone. But Meghan has built her entire brand on California life, on escaping the palace, on American freedom and opportunity. She can't go back to England without admitting her entire narrative was wrong. So Harry is trapped, stuck in a place that isn't home, with a woman who won't let him return to the place that is. Harry wants reconciliation with his family. Meghan wants headlines and fame. These desires are directly opposed to each other. Every humiliating TV appearance that Meghan pushes Harry to do damages his relationship with the palace. Every use of their children for publicity violates the privacy Harry claims to value. Every attack on the institution makes reconciliation less possible. Can you imagine the psychological toll this takes? Harry knows he's destroying his remaining bridges with every decision Meghan makes for him. But he's either too weak or too traumatized to stop her. Now, there's an important question about how this marriage ends. And Kinsey Schofield's perspective is fascinating. During the interview, she was asked whether Harry would ever leave Meghan. Her response, "I don't think that Harry would ever leave Meghan. I think he was so traumatized by his parents' split that he would never want to do something like that to his own children." But then she added something crucial. Meghan Markle would leave Harry for better when he is no longer useful to her. Can you see the dynamic she's describing? Harry is trapped by his own trauma and his need to avoid replicating his parents' divorce. He'll stay no matter how unhappy he is, no matter how much Meghan's decisions damage him, because leaving would mean admitting failure and potentially hurting his children.
But Meghan?
She's purely transactional. The moment Harry stops being useful, the moment his royal connection no longer opens doors or generates opportunities, she'll leave him without hesitation. That's the nightmare scenario Harry is living in. He can't leave because of his psychological trauma. But he's married to someone who will absolutely leave him when he's no longer serving her ambitions. And here's the devastating part. Harry knows this. Sources say he's increasingly withdrawn, spending long stretches alone, drifting away from Meghan emotionally even while remaining physically present. He's already checked out of the marriage in many ways. He just can't formally end it because that would require strength and independence he no longer possesses. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect of this dynamic is how the children are being used. Harry wants to protect them. Meghan wants to exploit them for publicity. And Meghan is winning. Because every time she has a project to promote, the children appear just a little more publicly. A little more exposed. A little closer to being fully commodified for her brand. Can you imagine being Archie and Lilibet in 10 years? Understanding that your mother used you as props to chase fame she never achieved? That your father knew it was happening but was too weak to stop it? Let me ask you, do you think this marriage survives another 5 years? And if it ends, will it be Harry finally finding the strength to leave, or Meghan abandoning him when better opportunities arise? Comment your predictions. Because we're about to examine the specific way Meghan is trying to chase relevance right now, with a Netflix Christmas special so laughably bad that it's becoming a public relations disaster. When we come back, we're looking at Meghan's family-less Christmas special, the raw vegetables with store-bought dip, and why this desperate attempt at lifestyle branding is actually exposing everything wrong with her approach. Stay with us. While Harry is debasing himself on talk shows and their marriage reportedly crumbles, Meghan is focused on what she apparently believes will be her salvation, a Netflix Christmas special promoting family and togetherness. The irony is so thick you could serve it as a dip for raw vegetables. Can you imagine the cognitive dissonance required to produce a show about family values while your own father lies in a hospital bed with an amputated leg, begging to see you? While you haven't spoken to your siblings in years. While your husband's family considers you persona non grata. But that's exactly what Meghan is doing. Because in her world, image matters more than reality. The performance matters more than authenticity. Let's examine what this Christmas special actually is and why it's becoming a disaster before it even airs. According to reports, Meghan's Christmas special includes cooking segments, holiday decorating tips, and lifestyle advice. Standard lifestyle brand content that hundreds of people do better than Meghan ever could. But here's where it gets embarrassing. One of the promotional images shows Meghan's contribution to holiday entertaining. 3 pieces of broccoli, 2 small tomatoes, and a container of store-bought dip from Marks & Spencer. Can you imagine thinking this is worth promoting? This is supposed to be aspirational lifestyle content from a duchess. And she's literally serving raw vegetables with dip you can buy at any grocery store. As one commentator said, "What is that? Why is that relevant to me? What is that about?" It's relevant because it perfectly encapsulates Meghan's approach to everything. Superficial, unoriginal, trying to pass off the mundane as somehow special because she's the one presenting it. But the content isn't even the biggest problem. The timing is. Meghan is promoting a Christmas special about family while her father Thomas Markle is in a hospital in Thailand recovering from having his leg amputated. He's publicly begging to see her one more time before he dies. Reports indicate she either hasn't reached out or took days to make contact. She's claiming she can't find his contact information despite being named one of Fortune's most powerful women. Can you see how insulting this is? As Kinsey Schofield said, "This is Fortune magazine's most powerful woman, and it takes her 5 or 6 days to get her father on the phone." We're supposed to believe she can't find the right email address for her father? The excuse keeps changing. First she said she reached out. Thomas said he received nothing. Then she said she emailed him. He said that email hasn't been active for 5 years. Now she's supposedly calling hospitals trying to reach him. Meanwhile, she's on social media promoting broccoli and dip for a Christmas special about family. Here's what makes this particularly galling. Meghan wants to be seen as an authority on family, on entertaining, on creating warm and meaningful holiday experiences. But her actual relationship with family is toxic. She's estranged from her father, her siblings, her extended family on her side. She's destroyed Harry's relationship with his family. She's isolated the children from their grandfather, their uncle, their cousins. And now she's telling other people how to celebrate family togetherness? While serving raw vegetables with dip from a store. As one commentator perfectly summarized, "I'd like to drop her face in that dip, stick some cauliflower up each of her nostrils, and put her on a plane to Thailand." What's wrong with her? Now, there's an important question. Why doesn't Meghan just go see her father? If he's dying, if he's begging to see her, Why all the excuses and delays? Kinsey Schofield has a theory that makes complete sense. I think it wasn't about the photos. That was an honest mistake in my opinion. We have been watching Meghan Markle rewrite her history for almost 10 years now. And Thomas Markle is one of the people that can confirm or deny her version of events. That's why she tries to discredit her family, and that's why she's ashamed of them and doesn't want to give them a platform or invite them into her lives. Can you see what this means? Thomas knows the truth about Meghan's childhood, her personality, her behavior before she became famous. He can contradict the carefully constructed narrative she's built. So she can't allow him access. She can't give him a platform. She has to keep him at a distance and discredited, even as he lies dying in a hospital bed. That's not just cruel. That's calculated. It's putting image management above human decency. It's prioritizing her brand over her father's life. And she's doing all of this while promoting a Christmas special about family values. Let me ask you, can you think of anyone more hypocritical? Anyone whose actions more completely contradict their public image? Comment below. Because we're about to examine Harry's pathetic attempts to negotiate security arrangements to visit the UK and why his behavior makes reconciliation with his family impossible. When we come back, we're looking at the security review, the letters to government officials, and why Harry's bridge-burning behavior ensures he'll never get what he's begging for. Stay with us. While Meghan promotes raw vegetables and ignores her dying father, Harry is engaged in what appears to be a desperate attempt to create a pathway back to the UK, requesting security reviews that might allow him to visit his father, King Charles. According to reports, Harry wrote to Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood shortly after her appointment, submitting a formal request for a risk assessment to the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures. On the surface, this looks like a reasonable request. A man wants to visit his father and needs security arrangements to do so safely. But here's what's really happening. Harry is trying to negotiate his way back into a system he publicly trashed, using bureaucratic processes to force the government to provide what he no longer qualifies for. Can you see the manipulation in this approach? Harry lost his security when he stopped being a working royal. That was the consequence of his choice to step back. He knew this would happen. Everyone told him this would happen. But now he wants special arrangements made for him. He wants the government to carve out exceptions to policy. He wants to be treated like he's still important enough to merit taxpayer-funded protection. And he's trying to frame this as being about his relationship with his father, as if denying him security is what's preventing reconciliation. But here's the problem. Even if the security review grants him some level of protection during UK visits, it doesn't address the fundamental reasons Harry can't reconcile with his family. Every book, every interview, every documentary, every appearance where he mocks royal protocol or jokes about leaving. All of it is Harry continuing to monetize his grievances against the family he claims he wants to reconnect with. You can't simultaneously trash someone publicly and expect them to welcome you back privately. That's not how relationships work. Even if Harry genuinely wants reconciliation, Meghan doesn't. Her entire brand is built on being the victim of royal cruelty. She can't allow Harry to repair his relationship with the palace without undermining every narrative she's constructed. So any attempt Harry makes at reconciliation will be sabotaged by Meghan's need to maintain her victim status. William doesn't trust Harry anymore. Charles is reportedly willing to see Harry but won't discuss anything substantive with him because he knows it will end up in a book or interview. The family has learned that anything they say to Harry becomes public. Any vulnerability they show gets weaponized. Any attempt at reconciliation gets twisted into content for the Sussex PR machine. Can you imagine trying to have a genuine relationship with someone who treats every private conversation as potential material for their next media project? Even as he's supposedly trying to reconcile, Harry is making it impossible by appearing on American talk shows mocking Trump right after his father worked to improve relations, joking about royal life on television, accepting any paid appearance regardless of how it damages his remaining royal connections, allowing Meghan to use the children as publicity props. Every one of these actions tells the family that Harry hasn't changed, that he's still prioritizing money and celebrity over dignity and family relationships. So, what's the security review really about? It's Harry trying to create the appearance that bureaucracy is what's preventing reconciliation, rather than his own choices. If the review grants him security, he can visit. And if the visits don't result in reconciliation, he can blame the family for being cold or unwelcoming, rather than acknowledging that he's burned too many bridges to cross back over. If the review denies him security, he can claim he's being unfairly targeted, that the government is preventing him from seeing his father, that bureaucratic red tape is keeping his family apart. Either way, Harry gets to play victim while avoiding accountability for why reconciliation is actually impossible. Let me ask you, do you believe Harry genuinely wants to repair his relationship with his family? Or is this just another PR strategy to make himself look sympathetic? Comment your thoughts. Because we're about to examine what people close to Harry are saying about his true mental state, and why sources believe he's becoming increasingly aware that he's trapped in a situation he can't escape. When we come back, we're looking at the reports that Harry is barely recognizable from the person he used to be, and why insiders believe his desperation is only going to get worse. Stay with us. Behind all the talk show appearances, behind the Christmas specials and security negotiations, behind the public persona that Harry and Meghan's PR team tries to maintain, there's a man who sources say is barely recognizable from the prince the world once knew. Can you imagine what it's like to be Harry right now? To wake up every day in a place that doesn't feel like home, with a wife whose priorities don't align with yours, estranged from the family and country you spent your entire life being part of? Sources close to the situation paint a devastating picture of Harry's current state. Harry is reportedly deeply homesick. Not just missing England in an abstract way, but genuinely suffering from being separated from the place and people he belonged to for most of his life. He misses his friends. He misses British culture. He misses aspects of royal life that seemed like obligations when he had them, but that he now realizes were actually meaningful structure and purpose. But he can't go back. Not just because of security issues or palace politics, but because Meghan has built their entire brand on California life and escaping British oppression. Admitting he wants to return would undermine everything they've claimed. Multiple sources describe Harry as being controlled by Meghan in ways that have stripped him of independence and decision-making power. He doesn't want the children on social media, but Meghan does, so they inch closer to public exposure with every project she promotes. He reportedly doesn't want to do humiliating talk show appearances, but they need money, so he reads from teleprompters and performs in skits that make him look pathetic. He wants reconciliation with his family, but Meghan's brand depends on maintaining conflict, so every attempt at peace gets undermined by another public attack or embarrassing media appearance.
Can you see the trap Harry is in?
He's lost the ability to make decisions for himself. Every choice is filtered through what serves Meghan's ambitions, not what's actually good for Harry or the children. As Kinsey Schofield pointed out, Harry is living in a gig economy now, chasing paycheck after paycheck, accepting any appearance or speech opportunity, regardless of how degrading or self-defeating it is. This is a man who was raised with purpose and structure, who had meaningful work as a working royal, who created the Invictus Games and genuinely helped veterans. And now he's doing silly voices on Stephen Colbert's show for money. That's not just a career downgrade. That's psychological devastation. Harry is a man who needs to feel useful, to have purpose, to be part of something bigger than himself. And Meghan has reduced him to being an accessory to her failed attempts at building a lifestyle brand. Think about who Harry has alienated in his pursuit of Meghan's vision. His brother William, who was his closest companion for most of his life. His father Charles, who reportedly wants connection but can't trust Harry anymore. His childhood friends, who Meghan systematically pushed out. The British public, who once adored him. The military community he served with. Even segments of the American public, who see him as entitled and ungrateful. Can you imagine the isolation? Harry has no meaningful relationships outside of Meghan's control. No support system. No one he can be honest with about how unhappy he is. And as the Trump appearance showed, he's actively alienating potential audiences. As Kinsey said, you can't go on national television and alienate 50% of your audience. Trump won the election. 50% of the country voted for Donald Trump. Do you think those people are going to buy your book, watch your shows, and pay to watch you give a speech.